to episode 7 of The Bar's Ankle High.
Welcome!
I'm Katie.
I'm Garrett.
And today we're going to talk about ADHD and coping with stress. But before we get to that, first I wanted to say thank you to all of our Patreon subscribers. We love having you here. And if you want to become an anklet on our Patreon, you can find the link to that on our website or just at patreon.com/thebarsankle-high.
And like, who would not want to be an anklet? Classic. Cute.
So cute.
Timeless.
And you get a special little note from us. So, you know,
also cute.
You got that going for you. And in a callback to our, I think it was actually episode 4, emotional dysregulation episode. I saw something on Instagram this morning that, because the whole time that Garrett was talking about emotional dysregulation, I was like, that's not me. I don't feel big emotions. And then I saw this thing that I think is like a Tumblr post.
Yep. And we're just going to add this to the list of, 10,000 things that have happened in the last couple months. We've gone, oh.
That's me. This post says...
And we'll add this to the post for the episode, too.
Yes.
People can read it.
You want it on this episode or the one for...
We'll do it for I think we should do it for the dysregulation.
Okay. This calls this recognition responsive euphoria, or RRE. The ADHD brain is turned up to 11. Our neurotransmitters burn bright. On an emotional level, this means we feel the stabbing pain of rejection, frustration, and failure more acutely than others do. On the flip side, we also experience a meaningful and powerful zing of energy and esteem with every word of encouragement, praise, or approval that we receive. The smallest gesture can power euphoria and great accomplishments for us. Wow, if that's not me, I don't know.
There's a GIF that I use to describe Katie frequently, and it's the one of that little girl at looks like a sporting event or something, and somebody gives her cotton candy, and she takes a bite of it and clearly gets like that sugar rush, and just like can't even. She's like gritting her teeth and making this crazy face and like pumping her hands. And that I think would be a good description of
and
that
that's
other end of the spectrum.
Absolutely how I feel every
Right.
time I'm told that, like, what I did was exceptional.
They're like, hey, good job. And Katie's like, ah.
Oh, totally. Like, that is my anti-drug back
Yes.
when that was a whole thing.
Yes.
Like, oh, doing sports is my anti-drug. Well, getting compliments on how great I am at something.
Telling me that I'm great.
Yeah.
That's my love language. Yes, the emotional dysregulation, that off-the-cuff response is for good and bad. So it's for all of the things. Causes a very intense, skips right over that how should I respond thought and just goes right to act.
Yeah. So I think inherently I think of it as a bad thing, like temper tantrums.
Right,
or,
yes. Popping off on somebody.
Yeah, I think in general the phrase like flying off the handle is not seen as a good thing. Like, I can fly off the handle into euphoria.
She sure can.
That's where my toxic optimism comes from. Because it turns out I can only hear good things about myself, so.
Yes. Which is really a skill.
I
have the other end of that where I only hear the bad things. Somebody can be like, you did a great job. Just make sure next time you work on this. I'm like, well, I'm a failure. I can't believe I did that wrong. Nope, that was not the message that was just delivered to you, but my brain only hears the bad. That's my shitty superpower.
I certainly can do that, but I'm more often if I like am really in a bad spot, I'll just do that to myself. And my GP, when I got diagnosed, the reason that he put me / kept me on 5 milligrams of Lexapro was to stop that anxiety spiral, which according to him was very common for neurodivergent people, because it's so easy to slip into this, I'm just not doing it right, I'm bad at everything, yada yada, and it turns out that the reason I think that is because I somehow acknowledge that other people react differently.
Yeah. Huh. Weird.
Yeah, that's strange. Anyway.
Somebody's wrong.
But it's not me.
Also, I think we should add another episode to our ADHD series called ADHD and Pooping Pants. So I should mention, I was doing some research for another episode we have coming up, Poor Planning, and I Googled ADHD and pee. I hadn't typed the rest of Poor Planning.
You do POO.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Pooping pants is the first thing that came up on Google. And then it was like, like poor spatial awareness, poor focus, like all of these normal things that would be coming up.
Poop accidents.
Poop accidents and pooping pants were in that list of recommended. When Google's like, do you really mean this? Sure, definitely not poor planning. It has to be ADHD and pooping pants.
I can confirm at least that a side effect of the methylphenidate that I am prescribed is not shitting myself spontaneously.
I've never...
Which is interesting in that it is a stimulant, much like coffee. Coffee does make me have to poop.
Usually I make it to a toilet.
But my meth doesn't. My meth does not stimulate my bowels.
Weird. So anyway, if you have ADHD, be on the lookout for pooping your pants.
Evidently.
If you haven't already. Or various poop accidents.
I wonder if Lisa Rinna's Depends ad campaign covered...
Time out. Pump the brakes before you continue with that thought. When? Let me rephrase that.
Since 2000.
When the fuck did Lisa Rinna start doing Depends ads?
It's within the last 20 years. Like, I have very distinct memories of seeing her, and it's like, she's walking a red carpet, and she's in this silk gown, and it's like, you'd never know. And she, like, turns around to, like, do that over-the-shoulder, like, coquettish look.
Absolutely not.
And then it's like, Depends, ultra slim.
Absolutely not.
Hand to God, I'm telling you. I know you're looking it up.
I am, because I gotta know. How did I miss?
Some intermission music.
This was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was recent.
Okay, so hold up. Now I gotta know how old Lisa Rinna is, because 10 years ago, she was what, like 45?
Yeah, she was, you'd think, too young. But then at the same time, I mean, I guess, like...
She's 59 right now.
Yeah.
So she wasn't even 50.
Yeah.
And she was doing ads for Depends?
Yeah, because age is
Am I missing something?
illegal.
We went two different ways with that. So Katie took it to like can you believe how terrible just the patriarchy is that it's got women feeling like they can't age? Meanwhile, I'm like, hold the fuck up. Am I going to start becoming incontinent when I'm in my late 40s?
Every woman I know who's had a child says that they, especially if they've had a vaginal delivery, they
I'm
piss
like,
regularly during like normal lifestyle activities. But
I'm just...
So I don't think it depends for dookies. Because then I feel like you lose the discreet factor if you've got some stank in your tank.
I guess they're going to need to get an ADHD spokesperson to do a ADHD don't poop your pants Depends ad where you're just so distracted with things that you're doing you can't feel that you have to shit and you shit your pants. We're
going to end up getting sponsored by Depends and you're going to have to read that ad. Just FYI.
All I'm saying is I need a lot of creative license with it. I can be funny about it, but you need to give me a wide berth and I can do all the funny poop jokes. They're not going to want funny poop jokes. They're going to want a serious ad where I'm like, did I just shit my pants? Like Urkel in 2021. Did I do that? Yes, ma'am, you did.
I had an oopsie daisy in the conference room at work. Thankfully, I didn't have to stop my PowerPoint presentation.
Thanks, Depends. And just point to my ass with a giant diaper.
Like flies behind you.
Pig pen walking around. Well, that was a nice little adventure we went on.
Yeah, welcome to the Bars Ankle High, folks.
And what are we talking about today, Katie? Other than pooping your pants.
Well, one stressful situation, I would imagine, is being a grown adult and having bowel evacuation issues in public.
Yes. I would agree with that.
That's pretty stressful.
That is stressful.
Now, I decided to take this topic because when Garrett and I were plotting out, or when Garrett was making me plot out this podcast.
I do have a habit of doing that.
Refer to our next episode on poor planning. But I said, I'm really good at coping with stress. I'll take that one.
And I said, I'm really bad at coping with stress, so I'm not going to take that one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let's learn stuff.
So tell me what it's like. What is it like to cope with stress as opposed to letting it dominate your brain and melting down?
See, so I do this thing, and I don't know, to the extent that, like, I don't know if this is a recent development because of just things that have happened in my life, or if this is how I always was. I think this is how I always was, but I very much feel like I compartmentalize it all. Mm-hmm. So for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm really good at coping with stress because I ignore it.
Turns out Katie's just really good at avoidance. It's not so much coping with stress, it's just, that doesn't exist.
I mean, that is a way to cope.
It's like the opposite. Remember that book, The Secret, that came out, where it was like, you just have to wish it into... Yeah. Katie's like, yeah, I just do the opposite.
Manifest it.
Katie's like, it doesn't exist, so I'm not
Can't hurt me if it's not real.
Suck on that, dragons!
Somewhat related to that, so you know how in Cinderella, the cartoon, she's like, a dream is a wish your heart makes, yada yada, and her little bird friends want to know what her dream was about. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I can't tell you because then it'll come true. So my theory that I still live by is that if I have a nightmare, I have to tell somebody about it so that it can't come true. And I've done it since childhood. Like, so if you tell me your nightmare, it can't happen because then, a dream is...
So how often are you... Like, I would say one of my, like, recurring nightmares that I have in various fashions is I'm running late, I'm not dressed appropriately, I fall when I go into where I'm going, where I'm late and people are waiting for me, and I get, like, dirt on myself, and then and then usually, like, there's something wrong with my teeth. Like, either they're falling out, or I'm drooling, or something. And it's usually, like, that series of things all happens. So if I just start telling people about that, which I have been for a while, they're like,
yeah, that's plausible, Garrett. You should definitely worry about that on a regular basis.
Yeah, I tell people, and they're like, oh, yeah, I've had dreams like that. Katie's like,
my nightmare. Yeah, my nightmares are like, I get caught in a tornado, and I'm launched across town, and then have to land, and then figure out where I am, and find my people. Like, I have to gather my people with me for safety, and I'm being, like, chased by an alien, or there's some sort of, like, outbreak situation, or, like, something I can't get to something is usually... Yeah.
I do have dreams where I'm stuck in, like a natural disaster, like a hurricane, or I'm in, like, a tsunami, or I'm stuck in, like, a whirlpool situation. But usually it's, like, I'll have one that I'm running late to, like, the SATs, which happened to me, or... I'm running late to my wedding, and I'm wearing this, like, shitty dress, and I get mud all over it, and I'm, like, a half hour late. That is the type of dream that I have. And, like, my hair is a mess.
I've had dreams where somebody else has been running late to their wedding, and so for some reason, my solution to that problem is that I step in. I'm like, it's fine, we'll just change the name on the certificate, it's fine.
So you're like, clearly this bride is running late to her wedding, so I'm just gonna stand in... And...
Because otherwise it would inconvenience the guests.
That is a real interesting take on... So maybe we're having, like,
maybe this
connected
is why I don't
dreams.
get invited to too many weddings.
We're having, like, connected dreams, and, like, I'm running late to the wedding, and Katie's at the wedding.
It's okay, I'll solve it.
It's fine, I have a solution. Just hold on, folks. Hi, yes, yep, a friend of the bride, taking over. No worries, just a stand-in.
Maybe that's the lawyer thing where I'm like, it's fine, I have authority to sign on behalf of my client.
Yes. I had her sign this ahead of time just in case she was running late. and her teeth were falling out of her head, and she wore inappropriate clothes and fell in mud on her way here. All of those things are listed. And there's a hurricane.
Because I learned how to be good at planning from Garrett.
Who clearly isn't good at coping with stress.
So I found several different articles on this topic, but ADHD, as we've discussed previously, is very often found with comorbid conditions, and difficulty coping with stress is most commonly reported by those who also struggle with anxiety and low conscientiousness.
Hey. I don't know anything about that.
Cognitive deficits in inattention and impulsivity result in ADHDers having limited resources to cope with stress, typically seen in a lack of support networks within their social circle. Attention deficits mean they can struggle with reappraising situations or draw on, quote, planful problem solving, cognitive reframing, and taking the perspective of others, unquote. Impulsive tendencies mean that they can respond to stress often aggressively and spontaneously. And those with anxiety can also find themselves responding to stress with just actively avoiding the issue or not acknowledging it. So that hurt me.
Here I am, like, listening to all these other things, like, oh, maybe you start feeling really overwhelmed, or maybe this happens. I'm like, and it's like,
Ding, ding, ding.
maybe you just avoid it. And Katie was like, oh. Just add that to the list of oh moments. That'd be 2 for this episode so far.
It's Sean Connery, of course.
That's rich. That's great. 5 stars.
So this first article I found on Science Direct says cognitive behavioral therapy can help adapt coping strategies, and ADHD participants in one of these studies were more likely to use maladaptive coping strategies like being confrontational, avoidant, or spontaneous problem solving.
Well, we've both been attacked. Although I think we're both good with spontaneous problem solving.
I think that like goes into the superpower column because it does make us an asset in any team project, because it's very easy for me to like rework a path around whatever the issue is.
Same.
Yeah.
Like I do think like the more anxious component makes me feel overwhelmed by stress, but I think when it comes down to like in a overwhelming situation, a lot of times I can just like snap focus and I can be cool and collected and like on point.
Yeah, I think that kind of ties into probably the amygdala thing though, like that fight or flight. Like I'm really good at fighting my way through whatever it is.
Oh yeah, my amygdala is like jacked. I've got a real muscular...
Your amygdala is taking performance-enhancing drugs.
I have a amygdala full of ephedra that it has been saving since the 90s. My amygdala is like a 90s pro baseball player.
Bloody sock and all.
Just loaded. Testosterone and performance-enhancing drugs and ephedra.
If you understand that reference, it's time for a nightly eye cream.
It's time to include retinol in your routine.
Am I going to? No. But that's not what we're here for. Anyway. ADHD people were better at readjusting to changes within the stressful situation, which we've also mentioned in our previous episodes, and we tend to be way more optimistic, even with our comorbid conditions like anxiety and depression. ADHD folks are better at creative problem solving.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think
even if it's more reactionary and less planful.
I mean, we get there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean...
I think as I've gotten older, too, that's definitely... I categorize things under figure-outable. So there are times where maybe I'm not going to dedicate all the time to figure it out now, but I know there's a solution. And if I spend a couple hours thinking about it, I also tend to do a lot of passive thinking, where I'm working on something but not actively thinking about it. So I'm walking, doing something else, and kind of chewing on something. And actually, I would say almost everybody in my life, I'm going to correct that. Everybody in my life has heard me say, let me chew on it. And I will let you know. I have to think about it. And then I come up with a solution.
Yeah, which kind of Yeah.
Yes, I can.
I was going to go on a really ridiculous tangent that we don't need to go on right now.
We're in for a long day.
All right, so then I was on our favorite magazine's page, Attitude Mag, and
Great resource.
yeah, they had an article on ADHD relaxation techniques to reduce stress.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate
Like the
this.
green time we were talking about in
Yes.
the last episode.
So the first tip they have, which I think is like critical and so easy to forget, is stop blaming yourself for your ADHD. Like, acknowledge that you have it and stop blaming yourself for not doing whatever it was that you missed. Chores, a bill deadline, etc. Like, ADHD is neurobiological. It's how you were made, and it's not going to go away.
I think that's been one of the best parts about doing this series is, I mean, downside is I've been focusing on it so much that I'm incredibly frustrated with myself at all times. But the other side of that is it's given me a more biological understanding of it.
Yes.
So I'm understanding that this is coming down to brain chemistry, brain function. This is not my choice to just be bad at focusing.
Right. Yes, yes, yeah. And for a long time, I was thinking about this last night, but like, for the longest time, it was so easy for me to dismiss, like, oh, I'm just always on my phone because I'm always on my phone, and I've got Facebook and Instagram on my phone, and emails, and when my work email was tied to my phone, when I was in the private sector and during COVID, I mean, it was just constant. Like, my first vacation when I went to the public sector where I didn't have my email on my phone was like outrageous. Like, I almost didn't know what to do with myself.
It's almost like when you're a kid and you go on summer break.
Yes.
That's what it feels like to not have work email on your phone.
Yes. So I thought, it's not that I'm, I have ADHD. I'm just bad at being an adult.
Yeah.
Like, and so, yeah, this series has definitely given me a better understanding of just, like, how I work. And how a lot of the people in my life work, because a lot of the people I know have it, like you and my mom and my brother and probably several of my relatives outside of those people.
Yes, it's definitely, there's a lot of times and a lot of things about myself that I've had a hard time kind of putting my finger on. Haven't been able to really figure out like why I do these things and why I have a hard time relating to other people sometimes. Like the emotional dysregulation for me was like mind blown. And that's not on the list of regular ADHD symptoms. We kind of lumped a bunch of those together.
Yeah.
Mood swings and frustration tolerance and things like that. But the way it's bundled up and described usually is as emotional dysregulation. But anyway, that was a really like pivotal thing for me because I was like, oh my God, this is not just that I'm emotional or overly sensitive or this or this. Like, no, there's a biological reason why my brain does that.
Right, exactly. And to think of it like that, like you would think of IBS or celiac disease.
And like all I can do is work on it.
Right. Like I can do things to help my body work better.
Yes.
To serve me.
Yes.
In what I do for my life, how I live my life, whatever.
And if that's eating a whole pint of Stewart's ice cream like I did last night, then so be it.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. Just like that.
That is the prime example. When I Googled it, this is what came up. It was pooping pants and eating a whole pint of ice cream.
For your health.
Yes, it was vegan ice cream. Does that make it any better? I looked at the calorie content, like the nutrition label inside, and I was like, oh no, nobody needs to see this. Nope, just gonna turn that right back around.
Irrelevant.
And finish it.
So in acknowledging your ADHD, the article on attitudemag.com did say, proper diagnosis and treatment is critical, and that includes therapy and sometimes medication, and those are great starting points, as well as this podcast. I added that part in. That wasn't in the article.
Creative license, which you can do when you have a podcast.
The second tip they have is the exercise, which I know that we mention a lot. They note that physical activity naturally increases your brain's serotonin levels, which combats the stress hormone cortisol. According to this article, one exercise session, such as a walk outdoors for 30 minutes, can increase relaxation and improve your mood for up to 2 hours, and over time, continuous and regular exercise can raise your threshold for stress. So you get to that point where, because you constantly have, your body is ready for the next serotonin boost if you're regularly going for that walk every day, then it, your minimum threshold, the bar is no longer ankle high.
It's knee high now.
Yeah, it keeps going. So then your brain is better able to not produce cortisol right away, which is that stress hormone, and then throws your whole body, all of your organs into that fight or flight mode.
And then you're retaining water and you're bloated and grumpy.
Right.
And tired.
Right.
And I will say, the question that I ask myself if I'm not feeling motivated is, have you ever felt worse after coming back for a walk? And I've never felt worse back from a walk than before I left.
Yeah.
I always feel better doing it than not doing it. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather take even if it's just 15 minutes, than to not take it and then be grumpy.
Yeah, even if I walk slow, which I do struggle with, because again, in my head, I'm like, if you're not walking fast, I'm getting sweaty. It's not a workout.
Yep.
But yeah, even a slow walk.
Totally.
Because I often have to tell myself, we're not setting any speed records this time. We're just going for a walk. And I feel so much better when I take that arbitrary, fake, self-imposed stress.
What I've noticed does help with that is I will sometimes take off my fitness tracker before I go. So that I'm not checking the time, checking my pace, checking how many steps I have, checking how far I've gone, anything like that. I go with the intention of just going and being clear.
That's a good idea.
Yep, and I leave my tracker and I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So I'm not getting notifications, but also can call for help if I get murdered.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. Listen to the Bar's Ankle High for other safety tips.
Third tip is to measure time. So opposite of your tip of take off your smartwatch. This says use a smartwatch and set calendar reminders to go for that 30-minute walk or take a stretching break at work.
Well, use it for the reminder and then take it off while you go.
Yeah. I make to-do lists at work all the time. And basically how this has worked for me is I make a to-do list of what I need to accomplish that day at work, and then as soon as that list is done, I can fuck off for the rest of the day. Obviously I'm there to do work if my boss needs me to, but I don't have to put pressure on myself to accomplish more and to continue to be the most achieved person.
Yes, I usually will go into every day with a list. It doesn't matter if I'm working, home, of things I have to get done today and things I would like to get done today. Yeah,
I think having that actual measurable finish line that's not set on when the clock hits 5 p.m. is super important, because it's, we struggle with deadlines and with procrastination. So if you tell me I have until 5 to finish it, well, guess what I'm doing at 4:30?
Oh yeah, then my brain's like, you really can't focus on that until it's at least 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Exactly.
Ooh, you better wait on that. It's a little early to be working on this at noon.
Yeah. It's my brain is like an avocado that just won't get ripe and then is ripe for 30 seconds and then starts getting brown.
Yeah. It's like hard. Ripe! Overripe.
Yeah. Murdered.
Yeah. Brown.
Yeah. Useless.
Brown and soft.
Ooh.
Like...
Nope.
Pooping your pants.
Oh. I thought you were going to say a depressing wiener. Just the softies are no fun.
No. I was going... No, go ahead. I was going to go off on a tangent about my favorite joke, but I'm not going to do that. So go ahead. Nobody needs to hear that.
Yeah, we'll put that on Patreon.
Yes, please not subscribe. What's the phrase? Subscribe to our Patreon?
Yeah.
Or join our Patreon. Become a patriot. And listen to me tell my favorite joke. Because it's great.
The fourth tip is to create boundaries. This article recommends saying no 3 times a day.
Oh.
Usually to different people as possible. Each time you say yes to something, ask yourself what the trade-off is, what you have to say no to in order to say yes to that thing. This can also help if you're prone to like double booking yourself or not leaving yourself enough time to recharge your batteries every day or every week. But I thought that was like
that's a good just life tip.
Yeah, I thought that was like so useful.
Yes,
because I think everybody is prone to overcommitting. I know that happens to PK sometimes, and he definitely does not have ADHD.
Yeah. I can do that.
Yeah,
that's actually one of my like in an interview. I usually list that as a weakness. I'll say that I have a tendency to overextend myself, where I'll commit to yes, I can take that on when I really probably don't have the time to take it on.
And that was rewarded our entire
Forever.
lives.
Yep.
Yeah. So like in school, in work, like everybody loves to see like, oh, this girl's so industrious. She'll take on any project. She'll just face it head on.
We'll ask her to do it because she's not going to say no.
Meanwhile, Mount St. Helens is exploding inside my head.
Yes, I'm the lady whose legs melt off in the lake. I'm like, I've done too much. Trying to crawl out.
The fifth tip is structure is life. Create a reliable routine to minimize your chaotic gravy train. After dinner each night, as you're vegging out on the couch, make a little to-do list for the following day, even if it's something as simple as brush teeth, empty dishwasher, make coffee to get your day started. And that's a way to clear your mind before you go to bed, and also gives you a direction immediately in the morning, so you're not kind of like sitting there puttering around.
I do every possible thing I can do ahead of time is done the night before, because in the morning I'm not thinking. So I'm rolling out of bed and getting myself ready.
And that never worked for me. Like, I feel like as kids we always heard like lay out your clothes the night before. That never worked for me.
Didn't do it until like the last, I would say 5 years.
It doesn't change anything. I never check the weather. I always assume that tomorrow's weather will be the same as today's weather.
And the irony is, I will usually ask Katie about the weather because I also never check the weather, and I just assume she's always checked it because she golfs.
I do, when I'm going to golf, I do check the weather. But, like, it really fucks me over in the winter a lot, because I'm just like, oh, it's fine, and then there's a fucking ice storm.
Yes.
And, like,
and I don't have socks on.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the night before I try and get, like, my clothes are out for the next day. I'll even get, like, any makeup that I'm probably going to wear. I'll, like, pull out so that it's all handy. So that in the morning I'm not, like, wasting time looking through stuff. Because that's a recipe for disaster.
So recently my therapist had, like, challenged me to make to-do lists. And especially on the weekends, I use them so much to get stuff done around the house. And
that's when I use them the least. I actually usually don't use them on the weekends.
Oh, really? I definitely use them way more on the weekends, like for my home chores, because I think I'm pretty good, because I kind of, like, we naturally, in my department, we naturally have, like, a running to-do list for me. So that's not quite so bad, or necessary, unless there's, like if we have to do those trainings or something. That isn't immediately on, like, in my face every day. Right. But, yeah, I do it at home. But I always, like, in reading these tips, I always struggled. Usually when it came to, like, it would manifest in, like, my food choices and eating habits. But every time, especially in college and law school, every semester, when my class times would change, I would be so far out of whack for, like, the first month or so, because I had to completely change, like, when I'd wake up and when I'd do homework and this, that, and the other. And, like, it's not like you have any control over when they offer the classes.
That's a really good point. Like, I never thought about that, but that was really, if I think about that now, it makes me anxious, because I have so much structure and everything's laid out.
Just imagine every 3 months your work hours changed.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
I can't believe that we lived that way for...
Especially with evening classes. Like, one day a week, I'd have a 3-hour marathon class.
Yeah.
From 5 to 9 p.m. or something.
Yep.
Like, just crazy.
I used to do, like, I would work most of the day. I would work, like, into the afternoon from the morning. And then I would have, like, a break where I could, like, have something to eat, do homework, whatever. And then I would have class from, like, 6 to 10 or something once a week. And I took like 4 or 5. There was few semesters that I did that where I took like basically only night classes. And then I was working like almost all day. And I would have like 13-hour days, like 4 days a week. And I'm horrified that I was able to do that. And did well.
I feel like I need a nap just by hearing you describe it.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it.
That Bo Burnham clip, I am not feeling good.
That's what, like, I think about going back to school now for anything, and I'm like, I'm going to throw up. Because, like, if I was just going to school, it'd be fine. But going to school and working
and
the way I used to.
And having 2 dogs and a spouse. And
like, trying to, like, just, like, go to the gym, like, go to therapy, like, do the things that I do for myself. That's no.
Totally.
Unsubscribe.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Like... And yeah, so I was thinking about that, and I was like, no, I always struggled, and it was always, whenever I did Weight Watchers, I would be a fucking mess every semester change, and, like, I remember the leaders being like, okay, well, like, why don't you find a routine that works for you? And I'll be like, the fuck does that mean?
I do, and then it changes.
Right, like, there's only so much I can do, lady.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Oh, and I know, like, when I went to college, like when you were able to log in to pick your classes was based on seniority. So the people who were the farthest along got like the first pick, and then I mean, there's like the first couple years.
I would frequently have like an 8:30 a.m. class, and then nothing until like 2 p.m. And then like from like 2 to 5, I'd have like maybe 2 or 3 classes, and then so like my day was all sorts of crazy, which explains why like 18-year-olds can do that and not 35-year-olds.
Yes. Yeah, because I commuted, so I was always trying to group days where I wouldn't have to go to campus at all and I could work.
Yeah.
Because I was like working 20 to 30 hours a week while I was going to college, and it was like with a full course load, and I was constantly trying to like make both of those things work all the time.
Stony Brook had a
good for you, young Garrett, for doing it.
Yeah.
Because old Garrett wants nothing to do with that. No, thank you. No.
Stony Brook had a massive commuter population, actually, and I was a commuter assistant for like 3 years, which is like being an RA, but for commuters, and they created that whole office to like help commuters feel like they were actually connected to campus.
That's really nice, because I did not have that and felt very disconnected. Yeah. I didn't really like
I lived on campus and I was a CA.
So you but then
they were just starting the program, so I think they needed people, and I was a charity case.
Yeah.
So.
And I
worked for the dean of students, so like I knew all of these people. So I think that was really it, where they were like, "Well, you're weird.
Yeah,
you can do it." Okay, so the sixth thing we said, structure is life, and to find a way to structure your life, like those overnight to-do lists. Mm-hmm. The sixth item on this list was to take time to play. Make sure you keep room in your schedule for the quiet time that your brain absolutely needs in order to function. And people with ADHD, people think that ADHD means that you're always moving and can't settle down, but I find that I'm closest to a meltdown after I've used up all my social energy, and I haven't had just a quiet moment where I can just be alone and not have to speak to anybody. So my go-to a lot of times is like, I'll just take a nap. And that was always my thing as a kid. Like, my mom was like, you'll nap anywhere. And I think it probably was a reaction to overstimulation.
Yes.
Where my body will just shut down.
It does, it takes physically takes a lot out of me. It definitely makes me tired. Yeah. I'm just really bad at napping. And
I've had this moment with PK, actually, where I kind of like snapped at him one morning. And, because he loves to talk. He really does. And he was calling me before work because he works the weekends. And I'm like trying to get ready for work, and he's just like talking, and it was like mundane nothing. Like, I couldn't even tell you what we were talking about, but it was just stressing me out so much because I was just trying to get my lunch made and get my shit together so that I could go to work and be on time. And I like completely snapped at him, and I was like, I'm sorry, I have to go.
Because it was exactly like those memes that we see where somebody's doing like the inside of an ADHD brain, and there's like 3 narrations going on at
Yes.
the same time. That's exact, because then you've got somebody narrating.
And then someone's talking to me, and I'm
right. While you're thinking
expected
about...
to respond to them
Right.
and have thoughtful responses, and I just couldn't
Right.
do it. And so yeah, like that was a thing, and that's something that I say to him a lot. Like, my triggers are not his responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
But once I figure out what my trigger is, it is my job to like manage that.
Totally.
And to set that boundary and say like, hey, I'm going to turn off my phone for a bit.
Yep.
I just need to like have quiet time. Mm-hmm. And he's super understanding, you know, partly because we're both grown adults, but
yeah,
like
that helps.
fully developed. But I think having the wherewithal to be able to actually articulate that myself,
yes,
is also such a huge change from who I was 10 years ago.
It's so hard to like, that's with the emotional dysregulation. Mm-hmm. I struggle like just that like split second of like, pump the brakes. Why are you feeling like this right now?
Yeah. Even if it's just like, I'm about to freak out, and this is why.
Yeah.
And just explaining what the freak out is about so that they at least understand why I'm like bugging.
Yeah. I'm in a bad mood. I don't know why yet.
Right.
I just need a minute. Like, I'm just frustrated. I'm not mad at you. I am just frustrated. I have gotten better with that. That's true. See, look at us. We're finding the bright side. Please tell me this is a good thing.
Okay, so only 2 more things on this list. The 7th item is don't forget that you have ADHD. This article mentions that once people make a few steps in the right direction, they abandon all strategies that got them to that place and backslide. Apparently that's a symptom of ADHD, and that's normal. So, you know, keep this article handy or or this episode. And, you know, listen to it often. And, but even if you're going to keep this list and, like, just do quick bullet points to, like, keep on your desk at work or, you know, on your bathroom mirror so that you can just, like, quickly go through these little things.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's just, like, a visual reminder that, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do a to-do list at night on work nights or something, or school nights. And this article also notes that, like, even if you're just hitting, like, 4 out of the 7 tips, like, that's still a success. Like, you don't have to have a score of 100% every day.
If you have the ADHD with perfectionism.
Right.
And you require yourself to hit every single one of them every day. Otherwise, you're a failure.
Yeah, you do have to practice and flex that muscle. And then, finally, this article noted that ADHDers frequently don't realize that they're stressed until they're on the cusp of a meltdown. And holy shit, if that's not me.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what that's like at all. I've totally never done that. Yesterday. Or the day before that. And definitely not the day before that.
Yeah, it takes so much for me to realize that I am super stressed out. And often for me, that's when I completely lose my appetite. And that's how I know that I am, like, real stressed about something. And but it is so infrequent that happens that I truly lose my appetite from stress. So I've gotten better at identifying it, you know, thanks to therapy. But yeah, when that does happen, it is very, you know, like, I'll end up snapping at PK or something where
not only are you stressed, you're hungry. And you don't realize it.
Right.
And you're exhausted because you haven't eaten. I give myself I like pick and give myself hangnails.
I do that on my thumb especially, which is interesting because this is also, it's only on my right hand. And that's the one I used to suck on when I was a kid. So, and I'm right-handed. So
yeah.
If I'm especially stressed, my cuticle will be fucked up and then my nail tech gets mad at me.
Yeah, I sit there and I give myself hangnails on every finger. It's a delight.
So, ways to check in. This article offered a couple coping strategies to take inventory of yourself several times a day. I would imagine just doing this kind of with your meals would probably be an easier way to, like, cue yourself to do these things rather than being, like, really vague and say several times.
Yeah, it's like a gentle reminder.
Yeah.
Okay, How much water have I had? Have I moved at all? Have I, had something to eat?
This article said, close your eyes and take 20 deep, slow breaths. Now, I tried this.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I said, I lost count, so just do that until you feel relaxed.
That's fair.
I think that's reasonable.
Yes.
Like 20 is so many breaths.
That's a lot of breaths. And are they counting
inhale as one and then exhale as one? Or like inhale, exhale is one?
I would say inhale, exhale is one.
That's too many breaths. I feel like I would end up hyperventilating because then it
all that too
becomes a time trial.
Yes. Yeah, because like normally it's like 4. Like you inhale to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 8 or something. Like you inhale quicker and then exhale slower.
Okay.
But like you go through that just like a few times. Because if I do that more than like 3 or 4 times, I'm definitely going to pass out. Yeah. 100%.
So, I think the idea of like closing your eyes and just breathing, like breathing intentionally,
it's a great idea.
Is just as effective as doing it for 20 times.
That's a long time. Breaths. Yeah.
And then they said stand up and stretch for several minutes. In our office, we do have a lot of empty conference rooms throughout the day. So if I really feel like I need to stretch, I'll do that. But I also have a standing desk. So
yeah, that's nice.
Usually just face my ass towards my cubicle and bend forward so that like nobody can really.
Yeah, you're kind of tucked away.
Yeah. And if the weather is nice, just take a 5-minute walk. Just 5 minutes, guys.
Or even sitting in the sun, especially in the spring. Just recharging a little bit in the sun it feels so nice.
Yeah.
That can be really crucial to like giving me a little pick-me-up.
You're absolutely some sort of plant in a past life.
Yeah, I usually describe myself as like an outdoor cat, and I just come back for meals and attention. Mm-hmm. The rest of the time I'm pretty much outside. Recharging.
Yeah. Hissing at stuff.
Hissing at things. Eating weird things.
And then I found the last source I found was from ADHDawarenessmonth.org. Had an article about reducing stress when you have ADHD. And honestly, the way that this article was written online was like 10 out of 10. Like the changes in fonts. Remember I sent you that thing that was like how things should be written for people with neurodivergence?
Yes.
It was kind of like that.
Yes.
Where different words in the middle of a paragraph were bolded, but like throughout, and they weren't always the same word.
Nice.
Yeah, it was honestly like a delight to read. But, so, good job, ADHD awareness people.
You're good at what you do.
That's weird. But the final article, or the final takeaway from this article is that, you do have to practice checking in on yourself. And it's, making a list of all your stressful things that are like kind of on your plate and then prioritizing which issue you want to tackle first. If you're not sure how to prioritize that or you struggle with prioritizing, this article recommends using body doubling, which we've discussed in the past.
Which I definitely do and didn't realize that I do.
Yes.
100%.
And so in the context of managing your stress, this article suggests sharing with your double what your stress list is and ask them for feedback on which thing they think is the most important or time sensitive. And then tackle that and, if need be, brainstorm that with your body double on like the best way to solve that problem if needed. And this podcast, for example, could body double with you, where it obviously isn't like a Q&A format, but by all means chime in with your questions.
Yeah.
On our socials, and we'll do our best to answer them if we can.
Yep. Or respond with an unhelpful GIF.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did note in here that Garrett and I already do this for each other.
Turns out.
Interesting. Organic. And this article I thought was also very realistic in that it acknowledged that we aren't all starting from a place of exquisite lifestyles. Mm-hmm. So, like, not all of us can just change everything we do in our day-to-day lives at the drop of a hat. So, like, to the extent that, like, a lot of these tips are like, just go for a walk. Well, maybe you don't have a safe place to walk outside if you live in an area where you can't do that, or you work in food service or retail or something where the idea of like taking time to stretch isn't really like
it's like eye roll inducing. Yeah.
Like just close your eyes in the middle of, the lunch rush at TGI Fridays and take 20 breaths. Not super reasonable. So I think that this article did a great job of acknowledging the fact that like you do kind of have to work within your own limitations and acknowledge that like, some of these suggestions aren't perfect and like you do kind of have to figure out what does work for you.
Right.
And to the extent that we kind of sound like broken records, like working with a actual licensed therapist is very helpful.
Yes.
And they are trained to help you think about how to do things differently.
Yes.
And how to manage your stress even. And like just to have the outside looking in is so helpful. Like my therapist was like, could you maybe go stretch? Could you go stretching? How about stretch? Can you stretch? Could you just do that for like 20 minutes and turn your phone off, please?
I was actually I want to say it was a few weeks ago in a session, I said something about stress or, feeling like I had a lot on my plate, and my therapist pointed something out like, oh, well, you do really well with structure. So maybe approaching this from like a routine base and a structure base, like how can you break things into a routine? And I was like, yeah, I guess I do that. Yeah, it's a good idea. How about that?
Interesting. You're just gonna hold a mirror up to my face and show me it, aren't you?
Oh, I see what you did there. Telling me about myself. Crafty.
The witch. And then they also noted that for those of us in this category where some things in our lives are immutable, like if you have kids, their school schedule is their school schedule. So like, sorry, you kind of got to work with it. But they said that for those with that, then the article recommends setting up scheduled breaks within your regular work schedule. Or around your regular work schedule, making sure that you get enough sleep and exercising. Now, for sleep, I have an alert set up through my Calm app to tell me at 10 p.m. or 9:50, I think, to like, it's time to start winding down.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I have that on my phone.
Usually I'm already in bed, but, but it is a helpful reminder, especially on the weekends, I think, because I'll just put on a show and like binge it. And then before I know it, I'm, it's like 11 o'clock and I'm like...
That's literally what I did last night. I
saw that you like sent me something on Instagram. I was like, you're up late.
I looked at my watch. I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch another episode. Let me skip these credits. And I looked at my watch. I was like, it is 11 o'clock. Well, I've already started it. It's too late. Better watch the whole episode.
Saw that. It was like 11:35. I was like,
yeah.
Shoot, Garrett was up late last night.
Yep. And then I was like, I wanted to get up early. I better go to bed.
Lucky you, I showed up and I was like, I brought sneakers so we can go for a walk.
I actually went for a walk this morning.
Oh,
I did, because I was really thinking about that green time thing, and I was like, I really should. I can fit it in, and I went for like 20 minutes.
I was dragging this morning.
Delightful.
I meant to, and then my alarm went off, and I said, I don't really have to get up for another hour.
Yeah. Well, I did that, too. Like, I could have gone for a long walk this morning, but instead I was like, I'm going to lay in bed and scroll funny things in my feed. And that's what I did instead of getting up.
But to that point, this article also mentioned that we talked about last episode about that green time and how actually being out in nature has been found to be helpful for those with ADHD symptoms. So you can still go for that simple, slow 20-minute outdoor walk without headphones on even, and you'll get more from that and be less overwhelmed if by doing that, rather than when you hear exercise, it doesn't mean that you have to join a gym and run 4 days a week and lift weights to
or have a plan.
Impressive.
Yeah.
You don't suddenly need to be going to spin class 3 times a week.
There's no agenda. It's just going.
Right. And I think part of the appeal of exercising outdoors or achieving movement outdoors is that there isn't that pressure. There's no like benchmark to it other than like eventually I have to be able to get back to my car.
There's no
or my
mirror.
house.
You're not standing in front of a mirror staring at yourself, sweating and breathing heavy.
Yeah.
It's a great mind clearing.
Yeah, that's true. Nobody's amplifying my fupa when I'm trying to do a sit-up or something.
Right. I'm not assessing myself against other people that I'm seeing or being distracted by other people around me. It's just a really good way to clear your head.
And the last critical tip from this article, and our last tip, I think, for this episode, at least that was researched, in my opinion, was that they really argued in favor of effective communication and practicing effective communication, both by being a good listener and also being assertive and clear about your needs and setting self-boundaries and using your words to navigate conflict is a necessary skill and probably one that folks with ADHD have to work on a little bit more, because I don't think that I'm necessarily a poor listener, but I have had to learn over the years, and part of it could just be aging in general, but how to not have that canned response ready to go before somebody finishes their statement. And I mean, part of that is, in law school, learning when to shut up is a important skill that not many attorneys have mastered yet. But at the same time, I think, as we've said earlier even in this episode, is just being very clear about your needs. Like, yes. I need quiet right now. And my mom would do that when we were kids because she was a single parent. But she would say, like, mommy's in timeout. You cannot, and if somebody's in timeout, you can't talk to them. That's the rule.
Yeah, they're in timeout.
They're in timeout. So mommy's in timeout for 10 minutes. And she'd set the timer on the stove. Yeah. And then she would go and, like, not get talked to by her 2 kids for 10 minutes.
2 ADHD
But she
kids.
would she would regroup and come back so that she could parent effectively and play with us and not lose her freaking mind.
Yep.
Because, we're really messy.
Because we were a lot.
And she's not. She's not a messy person. But yeah, and the article noted, this is a learned skill and a muscle that requires development, and especially for adults who didn't know that they had ADHD as children, I think it's to the extent that as adults you can, I think, understand the importance of working on that as an adult. At the same time, you're starting off with a much more neglected muscle. So it takes more thoughtfulness and mindfulness to like really practice it and take those breaks. Like, I think, it's one thing to be like, I just can't, like you said, like, I'm really frustrated and I will get back to you when I can tell you why.
Yep. I don't even know why, but I'm mad. So give me a minute and I will figure it out. I also think along that vein of being able to communicate yourself better, I'm also making a concerted effort to set in like any conversation with somebody, set an expectation of like a time that I'm supposed to be doing something, what the plan is, because I realized how often I was feeling stressed out just because of ambiguity, because a clear expectation wasn't set or a plan wasn't clearly laid out, and it made me stressed out because I didn't know the right way to act or the right way to approach something. So that's something I also work on, is just in general, making sure I'm understanding things clearly, I'm not misunderstanding someone, or maybe at least I'm catching it earlier in the process than completely having 2 different plans.
Yeah, that is something that I struggle with because I'm the same way. Like, I like knowing what the parameters are. Like, in 2020, my family, we kind of did like a big family reunion on Cape Cod, where everybody had their own house, and we only got together outside and did all that stuff. And there were like theme nights, like we had like disco night and
Adorable.
St. Patrick's Day night and yeah.
It's very cute.
But at the same time, I was like, could you just tell me what time I'm supposed to show up, please?
Yes.
What is the plan?
Because I work my way backwards from that time frame. So it's okay, I have this much time to do this much. We did that last night.
Yeah, you did that, and I was like, what do you mean?
I have to work it backwards. When do I have to leave? Okay,
and then I got dressed in this, and I was like, oh, it's probably a good thing that Garrett made time for me to come home and change. So I don't show up to dinner in pajamas.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, what time do you need to be where you're going? Okay, so you have to leave here by this time. To make sure you're going to have enough time to get ready. She was like, I mean, if I'm getting dressed up, I was like, we're just going to say this time.
Yeah, the look you gave me was like, you fucking heathen.
You just trust me. I will give us enough time for all the meandering.
But yeah, so that is coping with stress.
That was fun.
Yeah, I learned a lot from it, I think.
Yes. And really, I mean, yeah, coping with stress is going to come down to, tools. That's a thing where there's no, medicining your way out of that. It really comes down to your ability to, which emotional dysregulation is going to come down to your ability to, unpack those things, take a second, take a beat, and work your way through it.
Yeah, and to the extent that medication can help coping with stress, I think it really just helps with that executive function aspect of things where, if I'm stressed because I just need to clean my fucking room and, put the laundry actually into the hamper, and, even that small act of doing that is, such a hurdle for me if I'm not
clothes up.
Medicated. Yeah. So, those little things, to the extent that medication, if that's something that you choose to use, can help with those little things that aren't the real reason I'm stressed, but they're making it way harder to deal with the big thing that I'm stressed about because it's I can't get out of my own way.
Right.
And so, having those strategies, even if the to-do list, wake up, immediately brush my teeth, turn on the coffee pot, empty the dishwasher, and then get in the shower. If I have that actually written out, I'll do it. Right now, my dishwasher is full of clean dishes. No.
Why am I like this?
Didn't go for a walk this morning, but also didn't empty the dishwasher. Watch The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, though.
So that's why we only have to hit 4 out of the 7 items and not 7 out of the 7 items.
I did shower. I washed my butt.
That's the most important thing.
Got that
Real Housewives.
ADHD and poop off of it.
And I didn't poop my pants, so it was a successful day.
Yet.
Be kind, because the bar is ankle high, and you might poop your pants today.
Yeah. Just shake it out. Or whatever Taylor Swift said.
Take it. Because she was clearly talking about pooping her pants.
Yeah, shake it off like a dog with mud butt. I'm so sorry, Taylor Swift.
What is her fan community? Is there a name for them? Beyonce, it's the Beehive. Are they Swifties or Swift heads or
Swift heads.
Or Twiffs or
Twiffs? I don't know, actually.
We'll have to look into that.
I know that my cousin loves her. Hi, Jill. And this is the same cousin who's a dentist and got her bag searched by TSA because she had a model of a mandible in it, so it looked like somebody's jaw was in her luggage. So,
that's excellent.
She got home and there was a tag in her inside her luggage, sorry, we had to look in here.
Yeah, a tag that said, what the fuck? Excuse you, what the fuck? That's great.
She was coming back from a dental conference.
That's like a New Yorker cartoon.
Yeah.
That's what that sounds like, that scenario.
I imagine, though, also, because all of the dentists were leaving that conference, I wonder if TSA was just inundated. They were like, we've got a serial killer conference in town.
Yeah, what is happening? I've never seen so many loose teeth
The Bone Collector. I read that book.
Did you ever read Gerald's Game by Stephen King?
No.
Oh, did you see that? Oh, you don't watch like scary, creepy stuff, right?
No, I'm not brave.
Okay, I'm not gonna go into an explanation.
I did listen to the audiobook of The Outsider, though, by Stephen King, and that was phenomenal.
The Stand is also phenomenal, too. That's another really good one.
In audiobook form, or?
Yes, I listened to that. It was many, many hours.
Yeah,
but
The
it was very
Outsider,
good.
I think, was like 18 hours. It was crazy.
I was
driving to court a lot at the time.
Yeah,
so
I had a long commute, and it took me like a month to listen to it. It was excellent, but in Gerald's Game, there's a guy who's basically like a gay necrophiliac, also mutant from inbreeding character who lives in the woods.
Was an inbreeding with humans or inbreeding with...
He was the result of inbreeding, but was a gay necrophiliac. And...
So he was attracted to other males, but only if they were dead?
I think he was attracted to men, and if they were dead, it was a plus.
Okay, but he wasn't, like, coping with his homosexuality by being like, well, it's not a crime if they're dead. Like, there wasn't, like, a religious sort of, like...
They didn't really get that involved into him.
But why not? Because I'm wondering.
That's definitely a cue for Stephen King. This guy
King, please hit us up on Instagram since we don't play on Twitter.
We don't. I mean, like, yeah. I'm just not willing to go to Twitter to ask this question. But the guy would go to cemeteries and like take the bodies from the cemeteries. But anyway, he had this bag that was made of like, it was leather from like people skin, and then inside of it he had bones, just like little bits and bones, and he would shake this bag, and you can just like imagine how awful that sounds. And there was like this very graphic description.
Cursed maraca.
Yes. And that's what I thought of when I'm thinking about all of these people going through the airports with like random bones and teeth, is just this guy like shaking his bag with all of these like bits in it, these human crunchy bits.
Nice.
And
then I choke on water and I go...
Tune into Patreon to hear that story.
Oh, yes, that's great. A good one for Patreon.
Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Bar is Ankle High.
We'll see you next Thursday, gang.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be here next Thursday with a brand new episode to delight your brain juices. Until then, the best way to support us is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and like and subscribe wherever you listen. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Bar is Ankle High. And if you want to help us grow the podcast even more, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/thebarIsAnkleHigh. Patreons get exclusive Patreon-only episodes, monthly horoscopes written by yours truly, and access to our secret members-only Facebook group, as well as added to our close friends list on Instagram. We have a lot of fun over there, and we would love for you to join us. Until next week, remember to be kind to yourself, because the bar is ankle high.